Well, I'm joined now by Brian Cox. Brian, great to see you here in New York. You have a place here. You spend a lot of time here.
Well, my family, all my boys are here. They're American.
Yeah.
So they have to be here. My youngest is currently in Thailand and is about to go to Emerson College. And my eldest of the second family, he's at the Atlantic Theatre School, and he's now directing a project for the summer. So, and my wife's here. So, but I'm about to go back to England because I'm going to be doing work from England.
With your kids, have you got the succession sorted?
Yes. Yeah, they get nothing. The one thing I've learned is don't give them anything.
It's quite interesting, actually, because that's become quite a debate where a lot of people take a view, give the kids nothing, others take a view, give them something, others spoil them ridiculously. How have you actually been as a father in that regard?
I think I'm fair. I think I've been a father at different financial stages in my life. There's a time when I was, I had my first wife was very smart with money, so I was quite good at that. We're not so smart with money on this side, but we're doing much better.
I actually, on my WhatsApp chat with my 3 sons in their 20s, I often send them Logan Roy gifts as responses to their various observations about what I should be doing to help them. It's very useful.
I love the way you say observation. You mean their needs?
Yes. Demands.
Demands, yes, exactly.
Let me ask you, post-succession, is it a weird feeling when you come out of something that's so iconic, so successful?
Well, it is a bit weird. The problem is that I can't go anywhere now. I used to pride my anonymity, but it's gone. Even
here in New York, was they sort of used to?
Oh, yeah. I go wherever I go. There's somebody will come up and say, "Can I have a picture?" Or "Can you tell me you know what?" and I go, "Okay, you can," and it's the best thing to say to somebody because in a way you mean it.
Is this the most famous you've ever been in your life?
Yeah, I think so.
And do you like that? Is it intoxicating but also a little bit intimidating?
It's a sort of, what is it? How do I describe it? It's a sort of, it's all right, but it's also sometimes gets a little bit overmuch, because people are they're so into the show. It's just incredible. It's kind of weird when I went to China. I was in China recently, and I thought, oh, this is great. Nobody will know the show. It lasted a day.
Really?
A day.
Even there, Logan Roy was massive.
And then suddenly, all these kids going, Logan Roy, hey, Logan Roy. Sorry, does that sound? I didn't mean that to sound.
No.
But you know what I mean. And it was kind of strange, and I thought, oh God, But people are always, I have to say, people are always very nice. They're always very graceful. You get the odd kind of bargy guy who comes in or says, "Can I have it?" And you go, "No, cool it." And I've learned, the one thing I've learned, and I've never been good at this, is saying no. I've had to learn how to say no on occasion.
Where are your limits?
Well, my limits are when it just gets too much, or when we're in a particular area. Like getting off a plane and somebody says, "Can I?" And I'm going, well, there's a lot of other people. If I start giving you, I know the world and his wife is going to start coming up and wanting a photograph, and I'm never going to get to baggage.
The ending of Succession, the final season, I've got to be honest with you, when they killed you off, I was incredibly disappointed. I thought it was
You're not alone, Piers.
Well, and I read then that you were.
Well, I was, I wasn't really disappointed. I trust Jesse Armstrong implicitly. And it's his decision, and one had to go with his decision, and that was fine. I understood it. I think, personally, it was a little quick. Yeah. I think they could have given it, but I think they wanted that sudden impact, which is what it got, in that amazing episode, which I never watched, by the way.
You've never seen it?
No.
Really? Why?
No. Well, the idea of watching myself dying on a plane is not really my idea of fun, It's not something I really want to take on board, I'm going, I just watched myself die last night. It was so dramatic and so good, and I was so overwhelmed by my death, Bollocks to that. I know, I mean, you just go, yeah, and people kept, somebody would say, did you watch the episode? I said, no. Why not? It's a great episode. I said, I'm sure it's a great episode, but there's no way that I'm going to watch myself an ear or a bit, lying on on a carpet on a plane.
I mean, funny enough, I watched it, and after that, the next few episodes, it began to lose me because you weren't there, because Logan Roy was no longer part of it. I began to lose interest, and I tweeted to that effect, and then got a whole maelstrom of response from people. And you'll probably hate this, but I got back into it when your coffin appeared in the funeral scene.
Yeah.
Because suddenly you were back, and then of course there were some amazing performances, but the other characters were then responding because you were there again.
Yeah.
I felt that quite viscerally as a fan of the show.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, I was. I mean, that was also a very funny thing that happened because they were worried about the funeral, and they kept saying, we don't want to give it away. We've got to keep it in. So they said, we'll shoot you, and we'll do a scene that we won't use, and we'll call you on the day so you can come up and do the scene. And I went, oh, okay. So I'm driving up to do the scene, and I get the call and say, oh, we don't need you. I said, oh, no, we can't. We haven't got time to shoot that scene. I said, okay. And then I said to the driver, Joe, I said, we're going. I said, let's go. I said, because I know as sure as eggs, when I get there, there'll be paparazzi, and they'll want to know. And that's what happened. I arrived, and there I was in a Logan dress, and I fooled them that, oh, well, it's not his funeral.
Yes.
But if I hadn't been there...
They would have known.
They would have known. It would have been blown, yeah.
When it was over, really over, and the last episode aired, and that's the end of Succession, what were your honest feelings about that?
Well, my honest feelings is I was incredibly proud to be part of such an extraordinary show, and really kind of groundbreaking in many ways, because it's a satire, and it's brilliantly written, mainly by British writers who know how to do that thing of edge. They get that sense of edge, and certainly Jesse does. And I trusted them completely. I mean, one could quarrel and say, it's all, you get all kinds of things which are stupid, like sense of, oh, I've been rejected because they're killing me off. But of course, it's called Succession.
Yes.
He's got to go sometime.
Did it make it, I hate to ask you this because it sounds a bit morbid, but when you go through your own death in a drama like that, as an actor, does it make you think more about dying?
I've always thought about dying. I lost my father when I was 8. So death has always been kind of omnipresent in my life. So I've lost, my sister, my elder sister just passed away in February. So I'd experienced that. And ironically, Logan's death is quite funny because I was never there. I mean, I was never on that plane. Right. That was somebody else lying there.
Was it?
Yeah, it was
somebody
somebody
stand
else. No, yeah, it was a lion. A lion.
A lion.
It was a lion. Not a stand-in, it was a lion. And my lion was there. And then I had to come up because they wanted to shoot my ear. Now, it could have been anybody's ear. Because it was, I'm not going, you want to shoot my ear? I said, yeah, so I had to lie there. And that was it was way after the funeral. I came back the funeral was, the death was episode 3, and I came back to do something when they were filming in episode 6, and I just lay there and they shot my ear and then I went. It was a bit ridiculous, to be honest with you.
How do you follow something like Succession?
Christ knows. How do I follow something?
Is this what your bank managers ask you on a daily basis?
Exactly. They're all going, and now what? I'm going back to the theatre. Yeah. I'm going to do this play about Bach, and then in the new year, I'm going to go into the West End and do Long Day's Journey into Night. Right. Which I'm going to do at the Wyndham's Theatre with the brilliant Jeremy Herron and the wonderful Patricia Clarkson, who's a wonderful American actress who I've long admired. So I'm doing that. It's a play I've always wanted to do. And I was planning to do that anyway. I was planning to go back to the theatre just to sort of, see if I can still learn lines. That's my biggest nervous thing, whether I'm able to still learn. So.
Yeah.
And
because it's pretty arduous theatre work.
Oh, it is.
I mean, especially in Britain. I mean, American actors have told me they have huge respect for the art of of British acting because of the theatre training.
Yeah.
It's grueling and it's tough.
But it's how it's our mother's milk, really.
Yeah.
It's what we do. That's how that's where we come from. We go through. I mean, I was a kid. I always wanted. I loved the movies, but when I discovered the theatre, there's no going back because the theatre is so extraordinary, and we are such a theatre-based culture. Whereas America is a cinema-based culture.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting about that because it's very interesting. Egalitarian societies create cinema, like France, like America. Feudal societies, they create theatre.
Right.
And everybody keeps in their place. And are not allowed to go beyond that place.
Could you imagine retiring or not?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, never. No, I don't believe in that. No, I'll go on till I drop.
Would your dream be in mid-performance on a big stage?
No, it'd be a sort of wind down, I think, slowly. I think eventually the dementia will get me. I think I'll be, and then it'll be nice to be able to say, well, I can't do it anymore, I've got it. I'm hoping that I can keep dementia at bay for a bit longer. I'm still... I'm not old.
A spring chicken.
I'm a spring. Look at me. I look quite well for my age.
You do look very well, actually.
I know.
You do look very well.
I know. I think I look amazing for my age.
How old are you now, if you don't mind me?
I'm 77.
Are you really?
Yeah.
You look great.
I know.
Yeah.
I go to the gym regularly.
Do you?
I still got this problem, but I go to the gym and
you pump iron, or?
I do. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah. I pump iron. Yeah.
How often do you do that?
Well, I try and do it. I've been doing it every day since I've come back.
Wow.
And I'm going to join a gym when I go to London and do it more regularly. I mean, I just couldn't find a gym in London, but there was one there that I think I'm going to go back. So yeah, I mean, it's necessary, and it's all about muscle too.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I look at people running and I go, no. Don't run.
No, I totally agree.
Running is...
Knackers all your limbs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people, and you see these guys who are hale and hearty, age 52, and by the time they're 56, they're over.
Can't walk.
They're gone. They can't walk. And I just go, stupid.
Does it help with your anger management about global politics right now?
Yes. It adds to it. It makes me more and more... It gives me somewhere to get my vent.
I mean, I shouldn't think it's difficult because both in the United States and in the UK, I mean, there's a lot of mayhem going down.
I would say there's a lot of crap going down, quite frankly.
I was going to use that word. Let's talk about America first, but it does seem extraordinary that we're reaching a position where potentially the next election is Biden v. Trump again in a population of 320 million people.
Yeah. Well, I have to be careful what I say, because I am an American citizen. I'm a dual citizen. My boys are American citizens, but, well, it hasn't been particularly good in the UK either.
No, I'm going to come to that.
We'll come into that.
Let's start with America.
So it's all pretty horrible. It's all pretty horrible, really. And it's been really, I think, living under that 4 years was such a strain. I mean, it really was. And we were here. I mean, I'm convinced I think Jesse and the writers got really exhausted by that. It was very interesting because on our first read-through of the show, when we shot the first pilot, was the day that Trump was elected.
Was it really?
Yeah. And everybody was going back to see Trump, to see Hillary elected, and I knew.
I was here when that
Were you
happened.
there?
And it wasn't extraordinary. Walking around Manhattan, when it was known that Trump had won, it was eerily quiet.
Yeah.
People were openly crying in the street. It was extraordinary to watch.
I know. It was not a good time. And the ramifications of that have been pretty horrendous, really.
Are things worse now, or is our perception of life worse because of things like social media inflaming everything?
Well, I don't think social media helps. It hinders rather than helps, and I think it points up too readily inadequacies that we can actually, and the whole woke, well, we've talked about this before, the whole woke culture, I think, is truly awful.
And the shaming culture.
And the shaming culture.
Which I really feel quite strongly about.
That is,
this incessant need to shame and bury people.
And I don't know where it comes from. I don't know who are the arbiters of this shaming.
Right.
And it's very hard to pin them down. And it turns out it's usually a bunch of millennials. You know?
Right. And who gave them the halos?
I don't know.
I mean, it's extraordinary.
Well, I mean, I suppose in a way they're probably saying, well, you've all screwed it up, so we may as well do something about it. But it's from the wrong principle. It's comes from the wrong place.
When you see Biden, he's only a little bit older than you.
I know.
When you see...
But he ran.
Yes, he did actually. He can't anymore.
No.
He barely walked.
Clear.
But I mean, when you see him, falling over and tripping and all the verbal gaffes and so on, like I say, I mean, you don't do that, and you're 77.
No, it's so funny. I was at the doctor's this morning, and they kept saying, "Do you have to help yourself up when you stand? Are you able to? How can you deal with the curb?" I mean, I was being asked these questions. I said, "This is like
I'm pumping big weights.
I can move a curb." But it's very funny. I watched Indiana Jones the other day, which is I loved. I thought it was great. I mean, some people are a bit like that, but I actually because I love Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And they did this amazing makeup thing with Harrison Ford. But the only thing they couldn't do was Harrison on stairs, because all of us, even I on stairs, are nervous, and we are very overcautious on stairs. And there's a sequence where it's a younger Harrison, and it's all going well, and then suddenly for a few seconds he has to descend the stairs, and it shows.
Let's turn to the UK. You're going back to the UK to do this production in Bath and then moving to the West End. We've had a nightmare, haven't we? Boris Johnson, the chaos, Liz Truss not outlasting a lettuce. Rishi Sunak, certainly he's brought a little bit of decency back, I think, in terms of the way he conducts himself. But the Tories seem in big trouble. Nicola Sturgeon, of course, forced out in Scotland and then being arrested and so on.
Well, I think that's a bit of a witch hunt, quite honestly.
Do you?
I do. I really do. I think that she's been made a scapegoat. There's something going on there, which is, she's been arrested. Why would she be arrested?
Well, in connection with the financial impropriety charges against her husband.
Yeah, but they were all dropped. They lasted, it was like after 2 hours they were unarrested. So why didn't they arrest them in the first place? Why didn't they question them whether arresting them? I mean, all of it's so dodgy, quite honestly. I mean,
Who would have it in to that degree, do you think?
It's hard to know. It really is hard to know. But I do think that there was a real worry about it, and especially the vulnerability of the Tories at the moment, but also the vulnerability of the Labour Party. Yeah. I mean, I know Keir Starmer doesn't want to have anything to do with independence, Scottish independence. He really is absolutely against it. But you see, I think what's interesting in the UK is the work that somebody like Andy Burnham is doing in Manchester.
Yeah.
How that is really working, and how those cities like Liverpool and Manchester are really, and all you have to do is join them up, and suddenly you've got a kind of autonomous group that are really, being incredible. But
why is there such a paucity of leaders with a really fierce moral compass, a capability to bring people with them and to really affect change?
Well, I think the problem is that they get marginalised. I mean, I think Andy Burnham is a case in point. I mean, to me, he's the perfect leader of the Labour Party. Should be, no question, from my point of view. And he's done an amazing job. But of course, he is sidelined. He's put into that bracket that they've put him over there so they can almost deal with him. It's odd. I mean, ever since I did a film called Hidden Agenda many, many years ago, and discovered all about what was going on with the Ross McWhirter, Erin Eve, and of course Mountbatten, what they were all part of. Those three guys were part of something which was a little fifth columnish, I think. And of course they were horribly treated because they were assassinated. But again, it's this whole secret society that runs the UK. I mean, it's a very secretive, there is a series of hidden agendas that we don't really see.
Are you a cricket fan, bro?
I admire it, but I'm Scottish.
I know. So who do you want to win out of England and Australia?
Oh, I'd like England to win.
Really? I thought all Scots wanted whoever beat England.
No. There's this idea that I mean, I'm an Anglophile. You see, my view, Piers, is I don't want to see. I mean, I love England. I love the United Kingdom. And in a way, when you look at it, you look at the map and you see, you see Scotland, England, Wales, Ireland, Northern Ireland. And I've always thought that really what we need is not a united kingdom. We need a united federation. We need a situation where each country is autonomous and they come together as a group, so that we have to understand our reality, but at the same time we want to be independent. We want to make decisions for ourselves. We're grown-ups. And we're, even though we're 5 million in Scotland, and I think that this is what gets me, because it's so. Everybody's so afraid of that, so afraid of breaking that, and I think the United Kingdom, to me, is finished. I really do.
Yeah.
I do. I feel that we should have a united federation. We should all be on equal footing. And then we come together for the need of the Isles, what we are geographically. And I think we'd get a better society.
There were a few stories recently where I actually immediately thought of you and thought I could almost hear the steam coming out of your ears. One was that there's a new theatre production of The Sound of Music where there are literally warnings to audiences because they say the musical touches on Nazi Germany and the annexation of Austria, that an audience now has to be warned about The Sound of Music.
Well, this is what I mean. This is what I can't stand. I can't stand the way we want to rewrite history. I can't stand the way we don't want to acknowledge history. And it's so important to acknowledge what our history is, because that defines who we are and where we've got to. And without acknowledging history, we are screwed. You're well and truly screwed. And I think we've not done that nearly enough.
But all these trigger warnings that people want to put now on art, whether it's books, poetry, films, theatre productions, whatever it may be, when do we get so sensitive, so overly offended? Are we, or is it other people deciding we ought to be?
I think it really is about other people deciding we ought to be. I don't think we are.
I don't know anyone who goes to The Sound of Music who needs to be told, by the way, there are references to Nazi Germany. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I find that, I don't know where that's coming from. I really don't. I want to know who's making those.
I think it's a small number of people. It gets whipped up by a sort of very woke mob on social media. Before we know it, this becomes standard practice. Then you start seeing all the books having great chunks rewritten.
Well, we had the whole thing with Roald Dahl, which is disgraceful.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Absolutely disgraceful. I mean, Roald Dahl is he was a difficult man, but he wrote some amazing stuff.
But if the criteria for cancelling people or revisiting everything they do was being difficult, you would wipe out almost every artist of any note in history. They're all a bit difficult.
Exactly. Charles Dickens, boom,
gone.
And you go, it's not on. It's just simply not on. And you see, it also comes from complete ignorance. It's an ignorant state that creates this sort of, that's bad, that's good. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous to say, of course. That's what happened. People escaped. That's what they did, The Sound of Music. That's what it's about.
Yes.
Von Trapp family, And, we don't need to be told, that's just remind you, that's it.
And you might be upset.
I know, and you might be upset. I mean, it's also, we have to acknowledge our history constantly. We have to know where we are. We have to know what we've done and how we've got here. And it's a bit of a mess.
Do we kick ourselves too much now about the past? In other words, when you look back, I totally agree we need to know about our history and we need to be informed so we don't make the same mistakes and so on. But this constant kind of self-abuse about the past, the guilt trip that goes on, about things that happened 200-300 years ago, trying to transport morality of today back centuries.
Well, I mean, like we are now realizing, for example, about the slave trade. And how much we were really involved in that, and I think that's quite a good thing to tell people, well, we were not all pretty and clean on that one. We were pretty bad. But
we also led the world out of the slave trade.
We did at the same time.
So that should be acknowledged as well.
Exactly. The Wilberforce movement, all of that, which is very important. But that's history, and that's our history, and that's what we have to acknowledge. And if we don't acknowledge that, then we're living in cloud cuckoo land.
Michael Sheen recently said that non-Welsh actors playing Welsh characters he found hard to accept. What do you think of that?
Well, it depends. I don't find it hard to accept if they can do the work. I mean, I played Nye Bevan. You know, I played Nye Bevan. I'm a Scot. I played a Welshman.
How was your Welsh accent?
Very good.
Can we have a...
No, I'm not going to. I'm not a performing monkey.
Come on, Brian.
Look you.
So you see no problem. It's like Stanley Tucci on Desert Island Discs said straight actors should be free to play gay roles.
Of course. I played gay roles.
Have you?
Yeah, it was great. It was great, especially when I went, in the old days, I used to get upgraded because I played a gay role.
Really?
Yes. It was very useful. And it's, you know, I was, oh, Mr. Cox, would you like to go on to...
It's the bottom line that actors, by the very definition of the word, should just be left to do any acting role.
Yeah, that's what acting is.
The moment you start saying only this community can play themselves in a movie
you're kind of limiting it. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm a great watcher of Turner Classic Movies, and you see the range of people doing what they're doing, and some of it's outrageous, but some of it's pretty amazing. You know, I mean, John Ford doing How Green Was My Valley, you know, with a sort of mixture of Irish and, you know, Celt actors. Because we're all Celt. The Welsh and the Scots and the Irish are Celts.
Of course.
So we really are similar. We know our culture is exactly the same, you know. I don't agree with Michael Sheen, and I don't believe, you know, I don't believe in having... I mean, if a non-Scottish person can do the Scottish thing, I'll buy it.
So if I was to suddenly take up acting and play William Wallace, you'd be fine with that?
If you were any good. I mean, if you were shit, I would certainly...
On that bombshell, Brian, great to catch up with you.
Lovely to talk to you.
Really appreciate it. And best of luck with your productions back in the UK. Good to see you.
Thank you.